Welcome, stranger. Right, you bunch of pluggers, we have some news regarding the Mercenaries mode, PSVR 2 mode, and also Separate Ways DLC. Now, this is a leak from Dust Golem. I think that he's spot on with this one, definitely. And I think that he says that we're getting the DLC later in the year. I believe the Mercenaries mode and PSVR 2 mode will come out just after the game releases, and apparently sort of middle of the year. Well, we're already near the middle, aren't we? A little bit later this year, we're going to get the DLC for Separate Ways. It's going to be paid DLC, I think. That's what Dust Golem said when it comes to the Separate Ways DLC, so just have that in mind. How do I feel about that? I mean, you know, we had to buy a whole new game to access Separate Ways back in the day. We had to buy the game on PS2, the worst version, in my opinion, of that game. Well, actually, don't even start with the iPhone versions and stuff, but I'm saying that that's the worst console version. I pretty much like the Cube version, you know, and then the PS4 versions of that game. They're the ones I own. But back in the day, you had to own the PS2 version in order to experience Separate Ways. So it being paid doesn't bother me too much. This is just a leak at the moment for now, but I'm pretty sure Dust Golem's on the mark and Capcom will reveal it, you know, just after game releases. That's what I'm guessing. I think they've been working on Separate Ways along with the base game, and it's going to come out, you know, like I said, sort of end of the year around that time. It's interesting. I guess we'll still be playing as Adar, but this time I think things are going to be very different. We're not going to just have like the same locations and then I think bar 2 locations that were unique for, you know, that campaign. I think we're going to have something completely different. I do hope we get that underground base though with the ship and stuff, which was unique to Separate Ways, so that'd be really cool. I'm a little bit annoyed that we're not getting Separate Ways with the base game, but at the same time, if we think back, it didn't come with the base game on Cube, you know, so if it's good, I won't mind dropping money on it and playing it, and it keeps that train running, keeps that Resident Evil 4 train running. We get to keep coming back to the game, you know, and experiencing new stories, and well, at least this new story, this new campaign. So, you know, if it's worth it, then definitely we'll have to wait and see. Something like Shadows of Rose, I didn't even bother playing, I didn't even bother downloading or playing or dropping the money for. I might just pick up the definitive edition of that game. I'm not the biggest fan of Village, so I just think, why would I waste any more money? But, you know, just have a complete set, I don't know, maybe I will. But something like Separate Ways compared to that excites me. You know, I'll be happy to drop the money on that because I like the original Separate Ways, so that's cool. Mercenaries mode is releasing just after the game releases, the main game, and PSVR 2 modes. PSVR 2 modes are just going to be free. I would think so as well, because the PSVR 2 costs like 500 quid. So, yeah, they should be putting some content in that game for that peripheral. When it comes to Mercenaries mode, the Mercenaries mode was always with the base game for the original. Now it's being released slightly after the game releases. It has me wondering and thinking, are Capcom going to have paid for, you know, items in that mode? That's what's got me a little bit worried. Now, I'm sure they won't go too far. They know not to push it too far, and we'll be able to grind. But I'm guessing that we'll have to grind for, you know, hours upon hours upon hours to unlock stuff. Whereas other people might just be able to put some money down and you know, get those items. So I do think that the Mercenaries mode, because we are in 2023, the gaming industry is still fucked with stuff like that, microtransactions, etc., loot boxes. And Capcom still have that mindset. A lot of companies still do. They need to get out of that mindset, definitely, but they do. So I don't think we're getting, you know, a Mercenaries mode that is just like the original, where it's just you unlock stuff, you know, it's this little mini game, you play through it, and you advance, and then you try and beat your scores each time. I think that all that stuff's going to be present, but we're going to maybe get some, like, you know, some paid for stuff in there, and that always leaves a sour taste in my mouth, definitely, and a lot of people, I think, will feel the same. However, I don't think they're going to go too, forgive the word, but too retarded with that stuff, and we'll still be able to grind and unlock stuff. I could be completely wrong. Like, this is a leak. Like I said, these are leaks, so Capcom haven't officially announced anything at the moment. I'm thinking that after the game releases, like a month passes, then they'll announce all this stuff. But all in all, I am happy. Like, I'm eager to get my hands on the game. I haven't even played the main game yet, so I want to get my hands on that game, play through it, rinse it, and then start it again and play through it again, and just, you know, get some hours out of that. And then when the DLC releases, we'll see. We'll see if Separate Ways is worth buying, and we'll see if, you know, the Mercenaries mode is pretty much close to what it used to be, or if they've gutted it and just, you know, and ruined it, and everything's all paid for, like items and things like that. We're gonna have to wait and see. PSVR 2 mode would be great for people that own that, you know, that piece of kit. So, yeah, all in all, good news. I want to know what you guys think about it in the comment section down below. How do you feel about Separate Ways being paid for DLC? Do you think Mercenaries will be tight, or do you think they're going to ruin it? What do you think? I have my fingers crossed that Mercenaries mode is just like the original's Mercenaries mode, and also that Separate Ways is improved upon. They're my hopes. So nothing's been officially announced at the moment. So yeah, like, you know, it might not be Separate Ways, it might be something completely different. I always found it weird how they had Assignment Ada in Separate Ways. It's always weird to me, but I think Assignment Ada was something they created for the Cube version, if I remember right, and then Separate Ways was like them going, oh, well, we could actually do, like, you know, like a new campaign and stuff with Ada for that. So yeah, we'll have to see. Exciting news anyway for Resident Evil fans, Resident Evil 4 fans. I am eagerly waiting Friday for when I pick the game up with the PlayStation 5. Previous videos, just to sort of cover myself, yeah. Previous videos, one of them, I was going through reviews of people that, you know, had played the game, got the game early, like big sites, IGN, you know, Reset Era, things like that. And you need to take something away from that. I wasn't being down on the game. I know that one person that watched the video said, "Oh, you sound like you're down on it." We're all cool. We were talking fine. Yeah, we you know, we was getting on and talking and stuff. But I just want to say that I'm not down on this game. Like, I am a fan of Resident Evil 4, but you have to see it from my point of view. Resident Evil 4 isn't my favourite Resident Evil game. It's definitely a good one. It's a standout game in its own right. Seminal title, even in its own right. You know, game changer. Like, it was actually a revolutionary title. It's the blueprints, the progenitor. Yeah, forgive the pun. The progenitor for every other third-person, over-the-shoulder third-person action game that came afterwards. So it's an amazing game. But as a Resident Evil game, I have my favourites, and I have more love for the old trilogy on PlayStation. That's my favourite sort of like Resident Evil trilogy of games. And then I have my love for the Resident Evil remake, which I don't think any other remake has bettered. Like, even remakes of other games, I think the Resident Evil remake is the top for me personally. And then we have like games like Zero and Code Veronica, and, you know, all the kind of extra stuff, which they were good, they're enjoyable. I do like the old school sort of survival horror vibes and stuff from those games. Then we have like the new wave Resident Evil games, which is Resident Evil Remake, or Resident Evil 2 Remake, you know, Resident Evil 3 Remake, you know, not that great, Village, Resident Evil 7. But when it comes to Resident Evil 2, or the remake of Resident Evil 2, I think that they handled the horror, the survival elements, everything, the over-the-shoulder third-person, you know, camera. I think they handled all that stuff very, very well. So, because that's more survival horror, I like that a little bit more. When it comes to Resident Evil 4, it's an action horror game. Straight up, and it just depends on if you're into action horror more or into survival horror more, with a little bit of action sprinkled in. This is more balls to the wall, you know, blowing shit apart, like, and then running to the next area. And I think that the remake still retains that whole kind of flow, you know, and style. So if you understand it from my point of view, I really, really love Resident Evil 4. But if I hold it up against all the other Resident Evil games, the classics and stuff, and I'm not talking about gameplay and how it might be the best playing Resident Evil to date and blah blah blah. Resident Evil 6 is the best playing Resident Evil to date. That doesn't make it a good game. So I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about my own personal preferences. Resident Evil 4 is a great game in its own right. But when it comes to all the other Resident Evil titles, or it going up against other Resident Evil titles, for some of you, it's the best one. That's fine. For me, it's not. So I'm reading the reviews, I'm watching the reviews, I'm making videos on these reviews, just to kind of get a gist, seeing as I'm dropping like 400 and something quid on a PlayStation 5, and Resident Evil 4 is going to be, you know, the game that I stick with for, I'd say, a couple months. You got to understand it from my point of view. I have to go in there with a bit of a stare and hope that it is, you know, a game that's going to keep me entertained for that long period of time. And it's going to blow me away as a game I'm getting for for the PS5 for my new console. So you have to see it from my point of view. I'm not hating on the game. Far from it. I played the demo and I thought it was great. I thought it was brilliant. I really, really liked it. Loved it. All the improvements, brilliant. Like compared to the original. And I've always said that this game could be a lot better than the original. I think they might have pulled that off. I'm still pissed off they keep cutting content. It annoys the shit out of me. And you know, there's a certain enemy they've cut and it's really annoyed me. And it's because I'm a fan of that boss and another boss. I try not to ruin things because it reminded me of old school Resident Evil boss fights and Resident Evil bosses from back in the day. You'll probably guess what I'm talking about, but it reminded me of like a tyrant mixed with something else. And the fact they've cut that has pissed me off. I'm kind of annoyed by it. I'm like, what is the point of that? Why did you do that? You could have literally kept it in the game. The boulder stuff, running away from boulders and giant statues and all that crap, I couldn't give a shit about. I don't care if that goofy stuff has been cut. But having said that, the original Resident Evil has you running away from a boulder, so I kind of saw the callbacks and stuff. So realistically, if it was in the game still, I wouldn't have minded. And some people like those moments. So again, who am I to say they should cut that stuff? You know, and I used the Resident Evil Remake on Cube and then later obviously re-released for PlayStation 4 and PS3 and stuff. I use that as the template. That's the go-to template for what every other Capcom remake should aim to hit, like level-wise. It didn't cut content, it just had the same content from the original but improved on it. It added more content, you know, graphically it was better, it played better. It had all these improvements upon improvements, but it never did it at the sacrifice of gameplay or content, cutting content. And I don't really understand why they love to cut content now. I get the QTE segments and stuff have been cut and then replaced with better things. That's great. We're just going to have to see. When the game comes out and I play it, I'm just going to have to see, like, was it for the better or was it for the worse? Like, that's all I can do. So yeah, like, but I'm not hating on this game. Like, I'm not down on this game. I just have to be a bit critical. Definitely, I'm someone that's going to be dropping, like, how much is it now in the UK for a PS5 game, brand new? It's like 70 quid. You know, £65, something like that, £70 on top of buying a £400 console. I think I'm entitled to have a little bit of critique with it, like, and just, you know, give it a bit of a deep stare, like, and think, okay, what are we doing? You know, what are we doing with this? Like, I think I'm entitled to you know, to have, you know, a bit of an opinion on things. But playing the demo, I think I'm going to be more than happy. I thought demo was really, really good. I enjoyed the shit out of it. In fact, I haven't played any more of the demo just because I want to keep that fresh and I don't want to get fed up of it when it comes to, you know, playing the base game, the main game. So yeah, I'm not like trying to be down on the game. I'm just giving it a bit of an in-depth look, and I'm actually doing it from like a fan point of view, like someone who's going to buy this product. That's how I'm doing it. That's how I'm looking at this game. It's not from someone who's being all like up himself and it has to be like this. I'm not doing that stuff. I'm looking at it like, okay, what game am I getting when I buy my PlayStation 5? That's how I'm looking at it. So I'm not being down on it. I played the demo. I think it was great. I enjoyed the whole entire demo, like from start to finish. So yeah, I do know that stuff's been cut, and there's certain things where I'm like, yeah, doesn't bother me, and there's other things where I'm like, no, you shouldn't have cut that, you should have that in there still. But it's not to the point of like the RE3 remake, you know, where it just gutted the crap out of the original idea, you know, and the original game. So, you know, I'm going to be happy. And a lot of the stuff I've seen, I think, like location wise and things like that, and just how you can explore, it just looks like a great remake. It looks like a very, very good remake, and I think I'm surprised by that, because after Village and Resident Evil 3 and just these lackluster, you know, like entries in the series, as well as just sort of how Capcom were handling other series of games, yeah, not remaking games we wanted or continuing series that we wanted, I think that this has surprised me that it is as good looking as it is. I thought they were going to fumble the ball with this one, but you know, having said that, they kind of had to step up. This is one of the biggest selling Resident Evil titles, I believe, to date. It's one of the most popular. So yeah, this is basically, for some of my friends as well, this is the entry point to the series, you know. So, and for a lot of people, so yeah, they couldn't really fumble the ball with this, but it looks good. It looks good. So they're my thoughts on the DLC that's coming later in the year. They're my thoughts on the base game of Resident Evil. Just clearing some things up for you guys, you know. Just saying that not hating on it, etc., etc. So I hope I got my point across well, and I hope you guys understand where I'm coming from. So yeah, all that's left to say is I'll keep you updated with any more Resident Evil 4 Remake news or any Resident Evil news in general. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you're not getting notifications, you've got to hit that bell icon. You just got to sort of stay persistent with the channel, so whenever I put up content and stuff, you'll know. YouTube's, you know, a shit show at the moment, so there's not much anyone can do really. Content creators are finding it hard to get their content out there and let you guys know. Anyway, you guys have a good rest of your week, and I'm signing out of it. Hasta luego.